Hello CS108, this is Steve Klein again, your instructor, and I'm here to talk about the midterm on this video. So as you can see, I have PowerPoint coming up now. PowerPoint is not on the midterm. The midterm is all on the chapters in the textbook. But I'm going to cover them by building a PowerPoint presentation, a very basic one, just to give you something to look at while I talk. Here's my selection of themes, and I'm going to pick Slice just because I like it. And I double clicked it and I bring up the title, and so we'll call this Midterm Presentation. And the subtitle is Getting Ready for the Exam. Bang! And so this is our first slide, and let's go ahead and go over here. We'll add a new slide. I just right-clicked, and then it says click to add text. So we'll talk about the chapters covered. The chapters covered, and I'm using a bullet point which comes up immediately, are divided into two sections. We have concepts, of which there are 4 chapters. And we have issues chapters, of which there is 1. And so let's make another slide. New slide. And we'll list the concepts chapters. The concepts chapters are, number 1 is digital technology. And I can spell sometimes. Digital technology talks about the basics of computing in general. Just kind of like what is a computer? How do they work at all? Just what's going on? And you know, lists of what kinds of computers there are. And in digital technology, they talk about something that is incredibly important to understand, and that is binary. Most people who haven't studied computers have at least heard of binary, or at least know that somewhere in a computer system, binary is something that's happening. But we need to know more about binary than just that. Now, binary, which is a selection of 1s and 0s, is a numbering system. It's basically just like our regular numbers that go from 0 to 9, but they only go to 0 to 1. And it turns out that you can do any math that you want in binary, just like you can in decimal. So instead of having our regular standard numbers, the computer uses only 1s and 0s to do all of its calculations. And the reason it does this is because the internal circuitry on the computer system is made up of microscopic, very tiny devices called gates. And these gates, they operate using high and low voltages. And they were invented in the 30s and 40s. And they operate on high and low voltages, and therefore all of the math is done in binary. You can make gates that use 10 digits like our decimal system, but they don't really work very well, and they're incredibly expensive. So gates are the fundamental computation device used by computers, and because they use binary, everything in computing systems is broken down into binary before it's done. And that's a fundamental concept. There's much more within that chapter, but that's one thing that I want to make sure you know. The second chapter is hardware. Hardware deals with things that are tangible, right? Meaning you can touch them. Any device that you can touch is considered hardware. Your keyboard, mouse, right? Headphones, monitor, the CPU, the case that your computer is in, the touch screen. These are all hardware items. And the hardware chapter talks about how they implement or are used to build computing devices, and then other items and how they work. So you get a large overview of what hardware items are. The third chapter is called software. And software deals with the intangible. I got to spell it right. The intangible, you can't touch them. Now, intangible parts of a computer are things like programs and data. You can't touch a program. You can't touch data files. They don't physically exist in a way that you can grab them with your hands. But they exist. They are real things. My favorite way to think of software is like the ideas or the sentences and paragraphs in a book. You can't really touch a paragraph. I mean, you can put your hand on a page, but you're touching the page, not the paragraph, if you know what I mean. And software is the same thing. It's vitally important because without programs and data, computers are nothing but glorified toasters. But with software comes all of the computational power and amazing things that you can do with a computer. And the last concepts chapter is the internet. The internet is basically a massive network. And a network is a set of computers that can talk to each other. All right. When you have one computer alone, you can do amazing things. You can do all kinds of calculations, solve lots of interesting problems, get a lot of work done. But once you have computers that can talk to each other, then they can combine their computing power and do incredible things. And we live in a time when the internet is prevalent, meaning everybody has access to it, or at least many people do. Not everybody, that's certainly true. And you have an amazing amount of computational power available to you, even if it's not on your personal machine. And these are the 4 concepts chapters. Now I'd like to move on to the 1 issues chapter. The issues chapter in this exam is called Digital Life. Now, digital life essentially means what impact computing has had on our life. What does it mean to live in a society where computing power is available to most people? And this has had an incredible effect on our society and brings up many, many issues. Issues like privacy. It's very easy to learn about people without their knowing that you're learning about them. And so that's an issue that we have to face when we're living in a digital society. And other things like driving while distracted. 20 years ago, people did not have cell phones, so they didn't text while they drove. Now, that's a very serious safety issue for the general population. That has arisen because we live in a digital society. So digital life covers many other topics that are similar. Also, before I leave, I'd like to let you know that this secret word for this one is bubble wrap. You get a package with bubble wrap. Enjoy yourself, and good luck on the quizzes, everybody.